so everyone can hear me. Well, first off, great to be here, Cameron. Thank you. And boy, a little bit about me. I learned what I do out of necessity. I never thought I would ever teach marketing or business or any of this stuff to anybody. I mean, my sort of intro into business was I was a dead broke carpet cleaner living off credit cards. And I learned marketing because I needed to eat, I needed to survive. And I was a hardworking person, put forth a tremendous amount of effort, cared about my clients, all that. And I realized early on there's no relationship between being good and getting paid. And some people can argue that, and there's certain nuances to that. But what I mean is that you can be caring, hardworking, honest, have the best products, the best services. But if you do not know how to enroll people into your business, if you do not know how to persuade people to buy from you, if you do not know how to communicate and position yourself so that consumers can make a decision between you and someone else or no decision at all, then being the best or thinking you're the best or one of the best is not relevant until and unless somebody actually buys from you. And so I learned what I spend a lot of my time now doing, which is, helping people with marketing and messaging and positioning. I learned it because I needed to. I never thought I would ever teach it to someone. And then I fell in love with the fact that you can change words and that would change everything about if someone does business with you or not. And so I went down this whole path of turning the small cleaning business around, ended up teaching it to other people like me, thinking in my mind, I learned something. I learned a recipe or many recipes, and what could I do to help people to not have to go through the same level of suffering that I went through in the early stages of my business and have them actually pay me for that. And so I started doing that and built one of the largest training organizations in the world to the professional carpet and upholstery cleaning industry, people that are in fire and flood restoration. Then I licensed my stuff to, numerous other industries. And that was in the 90s is when I first started doing this. And so, and now today I spend about half my time helping entrepreneurs, connecting people, like what Cameron had mentioned, the Genius Network. And I spend about another half of my time with people that struggle with addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, gaming, food, you name it. And many times entrepreneurs and addicts are the same people because workaholism is a respectable addiction. And so I do that because I don't do that for money. I do that because it's just personally fulfilling. And so that's how I spend my time. So I'm not only an entrepreneur, I'm an addict that's been in recovery for over 20 years. So that's my deal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you said something about recipes, which I'm going to ask you second, but I think you've mentioned to me in the past and to our groups in the past that you've really studied marketing. And I think I've been through your offices and seen your library. A lot of people have books, but I think you've actually read them all or read most of them. And, people buy courses, but I think you buy them, you actually listen to them. And then, people go to masterminds, but I think you've been to all of them. How have you studied marketing over the year, and what lessons can you give us on how we need to study? And I always call it rip off and duplicate, but I mean that in the best of ways, where how do you take the best ideas from the best marketers and copywriters and salespeople? And how have you been able to study that and synthesize that and pull that stuff into your business today?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, I've read over 1,000 books. I've been to more seminars and stuff than most people that I know. I learned most of what I learned today through discussions, just like what's going on here. You get groups of people together and you have discussions. And so a book is, I don't think anyone wants to go to masterminds. And I've been to many. I've started many. I've ran them for, first group I started was in 1998. So I've been doing this, in terms of groups and leading workshops and discussion groups and masterminds for 22 years. I don't think anybody wants to do any of this stuff. What I think they want is a result, but in order to get a result, you need capabilities, you need skills. And so I'm always trying to look for what is the skill or capability that if I had this, if I knew this, it would help me get the result that I want. And so when I needed business, I was like, well, let me study marketing. And there's something that happened to me very early on when I was a dead broke carpet cleaner. And I've told this story before. You may have heard me talk about this, Cameron. I was, this dead broke carpet cleaner, frustrated, working 12, 14, 16 hours a day sometimes in my 20s, early 20s. And I was just frustrated because I didn't know how to generate business. And so I had a friend that I went to high school with that was doing really well being a stockbroker. And so I was going to night school in between this insane work schedule, a couple hours, 3 times a week, at a time to get my Series 7 and Series 63 license to sell stocks. But that never really resonated with me, but it was kind of like, oh, there's money in this, so I should learn how to do this. And I had a friend, another friend I went to high school with named Pat, that said, we're going to go jet skiing this weekend. Do you want to go? And I was like, nah, I can't. I'm busy. And when you're broke, it's hard to have any discretionary time to do anything. But he said, well, the guy that owns the jet skis is this multi-million-dollar real estate investor. And that's what I needed to hear in order to pique my interest. Oh, maybe I could go find someone that knows something about making money in business, because at the time, that's what I needed solved. So when it comes to reading or seminars or podcasts or pursuit of knowledge or watching videos, a good question that Mike Aguilera, who's one of our Genius Network members, a friend of yours also, he runs, this very large group for training service businesses. I asked him, when it comes to reading and books and courses, how do you decide what gets your attention? And he said, well, I just ask myself the question, what needs solved? And I was like, it's as simple as that sounds. That's a really good point. When you're trying to decide what are you going to give your attention to, what needs solved in your life? So going back, to my 20s, what needed solved was I need to figure out how to make my business work. And so when Pat said, this guy, this wealthy real estate investor, he's going to be on this trip, I drove my beat up pickup truck down the Saguaro Lake in, Arizona here, and I live in the Phoenix area. And I finally had an opportunity to sit on the tailgate of this pickup truck with this wealthy real estate investor, because he had 2 jet skis. It was my friend Pat and this other guy's friend. I can't remember this guy's name. This was, years ago. This is in the, it's probably like 1992, I guess. Yeah. Beginning 1992, end of 1991. And I asked him, I said, well, I hear you do well in business, and I have this small carpet cleaning business, and it's, I've been working at it for a couple of years. It's difficult, and I hear you do really well, and so I wanted to see if you had any recommendations of what type of business to get into to make better money. And he said to me, he goes, well, is there anyone in your industry that's doing well? And I said, well, yeah, there's a couple companies here in Phoenix that do over $1 million a year, and at the time that was a lot of money to me. And he said to me, he goes, well, if there's other people that are in your business making money and you're not, there's nothing wrong with the business you're in. There's something wrong with you. And I said, well, no, I'm certified, I'm trained. I don't do bait and switch advertising. A lot of these companies have been around for a while. They've got, they're established. They got name recognition. A lot of them go in and do, high pressure selling and use low price coupons. I don't do any of that sort of stuff. I treat people ethically. He goes, well, young man, he goes, you're like most people. You just got a lot of excuses. You think the grass is always greener on the other side. And he said, what's going to happen if you try to go into another industry, you're going to spend another 6 months, another year, another 2 years repeating, to learn the technical skills of another industry in order to repeat the same bad business habits that have caused you to be a failure in this business. Wow. And I'm like, shit, that wasn't the motivational talk I was looking for. But what it did, though, is it planted a seed in my head that, what? There are other people that are doing well in the same business that I'm struggling in. They obviously know something that I don't. And, I mean, even I had this belief back then, which I do today. And it's very interesting being in the midst of a pandemic and all of these challenges right now, is I was like, I live in America. I'm hardworking. I'm not the brightest person on the planet. I have a tremendous amount of, self-esteem issues and self-worth issues and struggles. And, because I just recently gotten sober from being a drug addict a couple of years prior. And, I was still just, I had a lot of internal demons and trauma that was unresolved. And I didn't know how to put languaging to it at the time, but I also knew I was a hard worker. And so from that point forward, I said, I'm going to learn things from other people that know how the hell to make a business work. And that started my journey of reading a lot of books, seeking out experts, really going to seminars, and really realizing that, it's stupid to go and try to figure out how to be successful at something without seeking the advice, the help, and the formulas that someone before me has already discovered and done it. And so then I became a student, like a real student, because school's never out for the pro. I mean, real education starts after you get out of school, especially in the business world. And so that was kind of the most profound conversation I'd had. He didn't say anything that anyone here has not heard before, but I was just in a place to where I was ready to hear it. And it's the whole, when the student's ready, the teacher appears sort of thing. And that was probably my most important mentor. And I don't remember the guy's name, have no recollection of what he even looks like that much anymore. It's been so many years ago, but I just remember his advice to me is that, you know, you're responsible for your own success. You know,
well, you just said something that I think is a really, it's almost a tweetable or a quotable quote, which is that when the student is ready to learn, the teacher appears. And it's one of the reasons why we ask all of our members to come into this event with, you know, 3 things they want to get better at in marketing, and 3 things they want to get better at in sales, and 3 areas they want to get better at in PR. So they show up with a gap already and wanting to learn. By the way, if any of you have questions, you can drop them into the chat. In the last 15 minutes, we'll do a live Q&A with Joe. Mike Aguilera that you mentioned, I coached Mike 10 years ago. I was coaching him and his brother with gold medal. And I remember one of our calls, we were talking about his marketing, and he was really stubborn about how Yellow Pages was such a strong part of his marketing and branding. And I said, no, it's because you're spending $2 million a year there that people are seeing you, but you're asking the wrong question. You were asking people where you got our number. Well, of course they got it from the Yellow Pages, but they didn't think of you because of that. They thought of you because of your vans and all your other marketing. So overnight they got rid of $2 million in Yellow Pages and took it down to about 100,000. And they deployed $1.9 million into digital marketing 9 years ago. And I think their business like went bananas after that. But that was just somebody, that was like a person from the outside that knew nothing about the business. You talk about masterminds, and you've been around them and running them longer than most people have even known they existed. How does somebody, because everyone here is in a mastermind with other COOs, how do people get the most out of a mastermind group? If you're in a mastermind group and we're talking about sales and marketing, how should our members get the most out of this group?
Yeah, I mean, part of it has to do with what you do beforehand. In the same way that, you know, one of my dear friends, Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote a book called Influence, you know, 30 plus years ago, his latest book is called Persuasion. It's like the moment that you actually make a sale is not when you're in front of somebody that you're selling. It's all of the stuff you do beforehand. Which is the same thing with, that's what, you know, the difference between, and I'll tie this in as to how to get the most out of a mastermind. You know, the difference between marketing and selling, as an example, is selling is what you do when you're on the phone or face to face with somebody. Marketing is what you do to get someone on the phone or face to face with you, properly positioned. So by the time they are talking to you, they're pre-interested, pre-motivated, pre-qualified, and predisposed to do business with you because you have done your selling in advance. The way to get the most out of a group is how you show up. So if anyone here drank a lot of booze last night, slept 3 or 4 hours, guzzled a boatload of coffee, hasn't had any food in their stomach or healthy food, then you're going to feel like shit. And you're going to get as much as your brain is operating on the energy that you have generated and how well you're taking care of yourself. So something that we tell, you know, all of our entrepreneurs all the time is think of yourself as the $1 million racehorse. And if you owned a racehorse that every time this horse ran a race and won, you'd make $1 million, how would you treat that horse? You wouldn't shove fast food down its throat. You wouldn't sleep deprive it. You wouldn't have it, you know, be working nonstop without any rest and rejuvenation. You'd have the best coaches, the best trainers, the best nutrition, the best exercise, the best rejuvenation. You would totally take care of that racehorse because that horse is an asset. And so you are the number one asset in your life and in your world and in your family, personally and professionally. So part of it is how to get the most out of anything is how you show up to it. I mean, and this is, you know, that's something I had to say, because a lot of people are looking for the best way to leverage the relationships or, you know, how to get the most strategies. But a lot of that has to simply do with, you know, how well you've taken care of yourself. I mean, everyone here knows, you know, if you are sleep deprived, you're going to have 20 problems that day that you wouldn't have, from focus to energy to irritability to mood to receptivity. That would not exist. So how do you solve one problem that solves 100 problems. It solves 10 problems. So if you want to get the most out of a group, come into it in a way to where you know in advance you are pre-interested, pre-motivated, pre-qualified, and predisposed to get the most out of what is going to be shared. Like today, you have all these different individuals and different people based on where they're at mentally and how they've set themselves up are going to interact with each other and experience this at a deeper level. And so part of this is how connected are you? And if you're disconnected from yourself, you're going to be disconnected with other people because, you know, humans are either in communication or they're trying to escape. You're either feeling really connected to something or you're trying to get the hell away from it. Now, when we interact in person physically, you know, a lot of people think they think of me as like this connector because I know a lot of people and all that, but I have to remind people that I'm an introvert that actually force myself to go out and talk and be introverted. I mean, be extroverted appearing, not that I'm extroverted. I realized early on, if I don't go and talk to people, then I'm not going to get opportunities in my life. I have to figure out how to go and engage with individuals. And truthfully, one of the reasons I learned marketing is so I could minimize having to do any sort of talking people into something. I don't like talking people into stuff. I like having the marketing do that for me. So in the same way that I do marketing is the same way that I engage with everything, with a mastermind group. What needs solved? Who do I want to connect with? Who do I resonate with in the group? What is the person that's leading the group? What are their intentions? What are they trying to guide and direct me? So I'm looking for all that. And secondly, anything that seems difficult or that I start doubting, I don't know if that'll work for me. I don't know if I like that. That seems like a difficult idea. I don't want to do that. Resistance is in a lot of ways a message that maybe this is something you need to take a look at, because if it's not challenging, I honestly don't want to do it. Once you get good at something and you're good at it, go for the next challenge. That's what growth is. You know, growth is a continual effort to swim against the stream. And so, you know, but you want situations and people and methods that will challenge you to keep getting better, because I'm just not but that's just me. I'm not a lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm an achievement entrepreneur. Lifestyle entrepreneurs honestly bore the shit out of me. I mean, let's, you know, get to a point. I mean, I like people that are trying to achieve stuff, but again, that's me. And that doesn't mean don't have a great lifestyle. It doesn't mean, you know, set things up so there's stability. I mean, I just like growing. And so when I come into a group, any sort of educational environment, I want to get better. And in the same way, if I'm, you know, I exercise almost daily. And if you're not putting forth some sort of effort, you're not going to grow. And that could be with a meditation practice, that could be with yoga, that could be with lifting weights, that could be with running, you know, it could be with, you know, any sort of challenging endeavor. So I treat groups the same way.
Okay, thank you. If you think about our marketing specifically, what mistakes do you think people are making right now in marketing overall? Where are people, you know, screwing up?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that hardly anyone talks about when it comes to doing good with marketing or not, and I mean, you know, we can easily track over, you know, $2 billion in revenue that my ads and promotions and campaigns have generated for clients. That's the shit that we can track. It's probably far greater than that over the years. Um, it's they underestimate the importance of it. They treat it like any other activity. And, you know, you can inventory the products that you have sitting on a shelf if you're in, like, you know, a brick and mortar business or things like that. But there are some activities in business that are just going to be so much infinitely more valuable when it comes to making money. Like the Peter Drucker quote, the primary purpose of business is to create and keep customers. Marketing and innovation produce results. All other business functions are cost. If you break that down, you know, the primary purpose of business is to create and keep customers. So that requires marketing, and everything else is a cost. And so if you are a person that dislikes marketing, which a lot of people do, one of the reasons that there's so much crappy marketing, unethical marketing, because there's a lot of people that have given marketing a bad name because of how they go about doing it. There's a very interesting video. People can watch it later if you just type in "is selling evil" into Google and just watch this 3-minute and 50-second clip where 10 years ago, I was being interviewed for a documentary and they asked me the question, is selling evil? And I went on this little riff and I said, well, my favorite definition of selling is from Dan Sullivan, which is getting someone intellectually engaged in a future result that's good for them and getting them to emotionally commit to take action to achieve that result. And so the key words, when I ask people, what are the most important words of that definition? Getting someone intellectually engaged in a future result that's good for them and getting them to emotionally commit to take action to achieve that result. People will be like, take action or emotional or commit. And I'm like, well, the key words are good for that. Because if you can get someone intellectually and emotionally engaged in the future and smoke cigarettes, drink, a ton of booze, coffee, pharmaceuticals, whatever, and you can argue that some of these things may not be good for people. But if what you're doing, what your business is doing is good for someone, and you're operating with ethics and integrity, and it helps them, then who you become when you're in that mode is a challenging person, is a person that listens, is a person that cares about someone, a person that's trying to educate people. And all of these amazing qualities come out of people when they're in that mode of selling in a way that's good for them. In the same way that everything that comes out of my mouth, your mouth, anyone's mouth is either designed to attract or repel. And so the mistakes that people make with marketing is they underestimate the value of it and how important it is. And then beyond that, it all goes back to it's a message to market match. Marketing is applied psychology. It's what you say and who you say it to. And so the best message in the world is useless if you shout it to deaf ears. The only thing worse than singing the wrong note is singing it louder. There's a lot of people become tone deaf. What's really interesting, once this whole pandemic started, and you obviously have seen me do this, I've been working like a crazy person right now, even to the point where I would not recommend to most people to put in the type of hours that I'm putting in right now, but I'm doing it because in the middle of a pandemic or a recession or a war or a crisis, stress, depression, suicide, abuse, violence, it goes through the roof. So vices all massively increase. We are on the cusp of the greatest mental health crisis in human history right now. Spousal abuse, child abuse, divorce, addictions. Gordy's very familiar with this sort of stats and everything that are going on. So are you, Cameron. So I'm putting a lot of content out there, and without even trying, David Bach, he's an author who wrote a bunch of books on money, The Automatic Millionaire, Smart Women Finish Rich, this whole Finish Rich series. He's written something like 10 or 11 New York Times bestsellers. And he sent me in middle of March, he sent me a YouTube stats about how my subscriber base was the highest on the list of all of these influencers in terms of growth, which I wasn't even trying, because honestly, I'm not even a huge fan of trying to build, social media following and things like that. Although I make money on social media and I'm happy to talk about any of that to whatever degree anyone likes to. What it is not being tone deaf. Marketing is not being tone deaf. And there's a lot of people right now that they keep, go to the next level, do all this sort of stuff. And if they can truly help someone in this context, do that, great. But there's a lot of people that did not shift their marketing message, and they started losing attention, losing followers, and coming across as inauthentic. And I started putting out information on how to mindset and how to think about marketing and what's the dangers, opportunities, and strengths of your client, which is a Dan Sullivan concept, a DOS conversation. And in the when it comes to marketing, understanding everyone here has opportunities. They wouldn't be part of this group if they didn't want to get somewhere and go somewhere. So all of us have opportunities personally and professionally, but we don't reach our opportunities until we can eliminate our dangers. And there are real dangers like cash flow, or we can't go to work, or we can't access many things. A danger for many people right now is how are they going to pay their rent? How are they going to feed their kids? What do they do? So there's psychological dangers also. So the physical dangers and the psychological dangers, no matter what opportunities that your business, your products, your services can help people with, if you can't help them overcome their dangers, then they're not going to be able to reach their opportunities. And the ways that you help people overcome their dangers is you look at their strengths and you reinforce their strengths. So my sense of, from what you've helped me with, Cameron, and what you've helped so many people, I don't know how long everyone here's been in COO Alliance, but I've been around you for a long time. You're constantly, when you're coaching people, identifying what are their strengths, what do you do really well, and how do we take that strength and leverage it to overcome the dangers that exist in your life so you can actually reach your opportunities. I mean, this is a whole group about helping facilitate all of you reaching opportunities for your organization, for the, in many cases, the founders, the CEOs, the people that have either brought you into this group or left on your own. You're doing this because you are the asset that you want to make yourself better. And so again, to take this from a marketing, to answer the question about marketing, the mistakes people make is wrong message, wrong list. I mean, it's what you say, who you say it to. And the last thing I'll say on this rant is I learned this from a guy that I learned marketing from many years ago, a crazy copywriter named Gary Halbert. And he said, there's 3 things you need in order to sell something. And I would recommend writing this down. It'll give you some framework. So the first is you need a product or service, everyone, product, service, experience, whatever your thing is. So that's the first thing you need. Second is you need a sales pitch or a marketing message, sales pitch / marketing message, whatever you want to call it. And the third thing you need is you need a delivery system. How do you deliver it to people? And what most people focus on is, here's what I got. How do I tell people about it? But if the sales pitch or the marketing message is lousy, then there's a lot of different places from, you go back to Yellow Pages, Mike talking about Yellow Pages many years ago. I mean, in the late 90s, every Yellow Page in every major city in the United States had one or multiple versions of my free recorded message ads. I would teach people how to use 24-hour free recorded messages to make their ads bigger without paying for more space. And they would say things like, warning, don't call in a carpet cleaner till you listen to this free recorded message. Call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Learn 7 questions, ask a carpet cleaner before you invite him into your home. How to avoid 4 carpet cleaning ripoffs. People would call a free recorded message and they would hear a 10-minute message teaching people how to choose a carpet cleaner. Work like gangbusters, work so much better.
That's all persuasion, isn't it?
Oh yeah, totally. It's education-based marketing. And, what I would do is, what do you sell? How do you say it? Who do you say it to? And so if you look at that as like, what am I trying to communicate? What am I selling? What's my marketing message? Who am I saying it to? There's a ton of available delivery systems, but if you don't know how to think about it, if you're going to just deliver a lot of messages, in many cases, I think social media is hysterical because there's so many people that would rather be well known than well paid. So if they can get the world to pay attention to them, I mean, I don't even need a social media follow. I don't even need the internet in order to do what I do. I could make millions of dollars and do every year with direct mail. And people are like, oh my God, that's, but it's true. Now, that being said, I'm not suggesting that for everyone. I've different ways I do it. The fact is there's, if you get the marketing messaging down, think of selling as influence, think of marketing as storytelling.
So Joe, one of the things I've been hearing a lot about over the last 6 weeks is companies are very worried about selling and marketing, and some of their customers are getting upset with it. How do we position ourselves or reframe it, or even get our CEO's head wrapped around the fact that we need to do marketing, we need to do sales, but doing it in a right way that we don't come off in a bizarre way to our customers?
Well, actually, I would have a DOS conversation with everyone here as CEO. I would sit down and simply ask them, the R factor question from Dan Sullivan is, if we were to meet a year from today, have this conversation, what needs to happen both personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress? If I was to ask everyone here to do that, and I won't take the time here to do that, I would say though, write down the question. If we were to, if Cameron was to have me come on a year from now, and we were to have this conversation, what needs to happen both personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress? And then you spend, a few minutes writing that down. What would that look like, right? I would have that type of conversation with your CEO, and I would also have it with your clients. What needs to happen? Because I'll tell you, everything is selling. It may not be like, give us money right now, which is, if you come across as selling in the sense of the stereotypical selling, if someone's trying to pressure me or talk me into something, then you're tone deaf, to use those terms again. And people are going to be like, wow, you're insensitive to the fact that people are struggling and you're sitting there trying to sell me stuff. So I focus my efforts right now on serving, not selling. But here's the thing, I just say those words semantically. I mean, the fact is, if I'm trying to get someone to listen to one of my podcasts, or I'm putting something out there, I'm enrolling them. And it may not be, hey, buy this thing right now. Part of it is, I want to create what again, I quote this guy, Dan Sullivan, a lot because he's one of my best friends, and I've been in his program, Strategic Coach, for many, many years. And we do a podcast together. People love to be sold. They hate to be pressured. So when you're selling someone into something that is beneficial, that they want, that they really find value in, they don't perceive it as selling. They perceive it as helping them. And what to quote Dan, what I was going to say was, a value creation monopoly is what I really want in my life. Not a monopoly where they're the only electric company in town, so they can provide crappy service, but you have no choice because you have no one else to go to. Or you're locked in with a cell phone company and, their service sucks. They never answer the phone. They enroll you in scammy, plans, but it's a pain in the ass to change your phone number. So you kind of stick with them. Well, I want the client to grant me business because I've been so valuable to them. I don't need to talk them into giving me money. I demonstrate value in a way, not what I think I want. See, because it doesn't matter what I want or what I think. People don't do things for my reasons. They do things for their reasons. Truthfully, I would like everyone here to like me and think I'm a nice guy and I'm smart or whatever, bullshit my ego requires in order to feel like a fulfilled human being. The truth is, everyone here cares about their own issues first and foremost. And that doesn't mean you're not I'm incredibly empathetic. I think empathy is one of the most important factors in the marketplace, especially if you care about humans and you want to reduce suffering, which I do. I mean, my primary thing with helping people is not to make them more money. I sell people what they want, and I give them what they need. What they want is more money, more clients, more fame. What I try to do is smuggle in, take care of your health, work out, have better relationships, be a better entrepreneur. And so that's how I tend to approach things. So
I was just laughing about that, thinking I asked you to come on and talk about marketing, and I was just thinking about the whole selling what they want, give them what they need. I knew you're going to give us all this stuff, which is as good or better than anything else I could ever give us on marketing. You mentioned recipes. I want you to talk to us a little bit about what marketing recipes you use, because I think you see things in kind of this, like, I can do this and it can stick and it'll stay in autopilot. It's almost like something in marketing that will stay as an automated, it's in orbit, like your free recorded message, which I took that idea when you told me about it. I'm like, by the way, I love the ideas I get from you at the Genius Network because I just put them in place. Like you're saying, right, here's a good idea. I'm like, fuck, I'll just do it then. Like, I'm not going to overthink it. So on the front cover of Meetings Suck now, I had the whole cover redesigned to include the free recorded message now. And it has people calling up and listening, and it's telling them all to buy a copy for every employee, and it's persuading them to do it. The recipes, I think you think that way in marketing. Can you give us an example of what a marketing recipe is and how you use kind of the marketing recipes?
Yeah, think of it as formulaic. And by the way, if I'm drinking this, I'm sitting there thinking this is how that's to look really weird on Zoom. So I'm just like, what is in this cup? So this is just simply hot water with a bunch of chopped up ginger, but it looks like I'm drinking rocks. So in case anyone's wondering what the hell am I drinking here? So not that anyone cared. Did you notice that was just a total waste of your time for like 10 seconds? So I think of everything as ELF marketing. Easy, lucrative, fun, or you can have a half business, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. And so rarely are things elf in the beginning. You have to put forth effort. You have to learn things. You have to figure stuff out. The reason there's so much crappy marketing is most people will not learn the fundamentals of writing sales copy, designing powerful offers, using social proof, creating a sense of urgency, creating compellingness, not convincing people, as my buddy, Dean Jackson, who I do the I Love Marketing podcast with, says, a compelling offer is 10 times more powerful than a convincing argument. A compelling offer is 10 times powerful than a convincing argument. Most of what you see out there in the world of selling and marketing is trying to convince people to pay attention to you, follow you, give you a lead, buy from you, versus they're compelled because the way you have described it, the story enrolls them in it. So a recipe would be something that is formulaic, where you can and clone yourself. So one of the first things I learned from Gary Halbert was you could be the best salesperson in the world, but you're limited by the clock. There's only so many people you can talk to in a given day. But with the right ad, with the right offer, with the right sales letter, and again, I say all this because I learned this before the internet even existed. There, I was running ads, Valpak coupons, postcards, radio spots, which is funny because I haven't done radio in years, and I'm getting ready to test 1,000 radio stations in the next week or two with a program that helps small business owners. And if it works, then we're going to roll it out to 12,000 radio stations in the next 2 weeks, which is insane. But the point is, it's like, how can you, if you have a recipe, then you can mass produce it. You can put it out to a lot of people. But recipes, though, don't try to go out to the masses if you have not figured out, people are like, I want to change the world. You hear that shit all the time. That's usually a cop out for people that are not really going to change the world. Like when I die, the world's going to be completely fine. Maybe better off in many ways. Who knows? But if I can change one person's life, then maybe I can change 5 people. Then maybe I can change 10. That's the same way that we approach the work that we're doing with Genius Recovery, is like, does it work? Does it have edification? Well, the same thing with a recipe. So can you produce the same result over and over again? And can you expand it? So any ad, any promotion, any campaign, a way to really become incredibly more valuable to your company, to your clients, to your prospects, is start thinking in advertising. Start thinking as an advertisement. There was a guy I interviewed years ago named Ted Nicholas who had sold over $200 million worth of information products and training. He started a company that, some people are familiar with, depending on your age, called the Corporation Commission. And it taught people how to incorporate, he created a recipe, a systematic model of how to help companies that wanted to, be corporations. And he had a policy in his business where he said, if someone would bring me an idea, I started teaching them, don't bring me ideas. I already got a million ideas. And if it's a good idea, we're still going to have to write the ad. We're going to have to then, test it. We're going to, have to implement it. And already got a million ideas. If you got an idea of something that you think we should be doing, write it up in the form of an ad and then present the ad. Because then if you can sell me on the idea from the ad, then we've already got maybe 90% of the legwork done, because we're going to have to turn it into an ad to share it with our prospects and our customers anyway. So he got everyone writing everything in the form of an ad. And if you can do that, you will become a recipe machine. It's not just a person with good ideas, but it's like, if you take your 3 or 4 elegant ideas that you're going to get, how long does this last, Cameron? How long does the COO Alliance last? It started today, right?
Started this morning. We end tomorrow at 4:00.
Okay. So think of it this way. You don't need like 1,000 things from, your time you're going to spend together with everyone, the different speakers. And, you got Jennifer Hootie, I think, is presenting here, right? Jennifer's awesome. And you'll love her. And she is so bright for, her age. And she's just she takes Cameron's vivid vision process and helps people, create vivid visions. And, she's phenomenal. But, she teaches advertising. She teaches marketing. She copywriting. And so look for elegant ideas during the time you're going to spend, because one elegant idea is worth more than 1,000 semi-good ideas. And if you walk out of here with 1, 2, 3, 4 elegant ideas, and then you take that back to your company and you write it up in the form of an advertisement, so that you have to not convince, but you compel other people. You're not doing it just for your prospects, your clients, or your CEO or the founder, whoever. You're literally doing it for yourself. The reason people don't do well with selling and marketing is they haven't sold themselves on it. You know, I mean, the number one sales job that we have to do is not the marketplace. It's first you. If you don't believe in it, how good of a job are you going to get from getting someone else to believe in it? You know, people.
Are you seeing any changes with marketing over the last number of years, where we used to have the long form sales letters and the long form landing pages? Are we switching towards more, not as extreme as Dean Jackson's as 9-word email, but are we switching towards more of the Apple-esque kind of copy where less is more, and being very, very specific with the copy we're using and the marketing messages we're trying to get across?
Well, depending on who you ask, you would hear, you know, it's the same thing. If you ask 10 different marketing gurus and experts, what their definition of marketing is, or you're going to hear 10 different answers. Everyone has their own little spin. And you also got to understand, when you're dealing with creative, crazy people, which usually is the marketers of the world, they all want to one up each other and sound smarter than the other person because they're creative, and that sort of thing. I tend to think hardly anything changes. It's how it's packaged and how it's presented. I believe the fundamentals, even Steve Jobs at the Worldwide Developers Conference in 1997, I have a weird brain. I remember quotes and dirty jokes. But if you asked me to describe, what the 6th episode of Tiger King was like 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't be able to describe that. So basically, he said that, we focus first on the user experience and then we focus on the technology. So technology is important, but psychology is infinitely more important. So certainly, Cameron, there's been shifts in like long form sales letters being broken up into email sequences, being broken up into social media posts, and in attention span becoming shorter and shorter. Marketing today is a lot about just simply algorithms. What do you watch? What do you read? I mean, what's being fed to you in your every form? You are being tracked everywhere by what the restaurants you look up at, the political articles that you read, the trackable devices that you're wearing on your fingers or on your waist or embedded under your skin. I mean, we are becoming big data machines, and what's being fed to us is based on our taste buds, our psychological and emotional and physical taste buds. We are being tracked by all the, so there's all of that. That being said, in all of the mechanisms that are available to target you, because you are literally putting yourself as a target. I mean, I drive a Tesla. I've driven a Tesla for over 6 years, not because I'm some environmentalist that hates fossil fuels. As a matter of fact, I like fossil fuels. That's a crazy statement to say because, until we have a storable energy, I'm not going to vilify something that medicine and clothing and electricity and a million other things, including creating batteries, would be able to, until you can find an alternative source. But a Tesla is an amazing car. And it also knows everywhere that I've driven over the last 6 years, everything. Like it knows my life is not private anymore. So now, that being said, how do you communicate that to people in terms of messages? I still believe the more you tell, the more you sell. You can never be too long. You can only be too boring. You cannot bore people into buying, is something that David Ogilvy said. So people are like, no one's going to read a long letter. Bullshit. People still read books. I was on 6 hours of Zoom events yesterday, 6 hours straight. I thought I was going to shoot myself when I was done. I mean, with no break. Literally no break. I lied. 5 hours and 45 minutes. And then I finally took a break and I went and meditated. And what's that?
We got a question on copywriting from Kevin. Kevin Korn put a question in the chat. He said, entrepreneurs tend to pivot on messaging. what's the best way to manage this and to ensure that it doesn't confuse the customer? So I think in this case, we're talking about the CEO, you know, coming back for an event or getting some random idea and wanting to change again and change again. They're always, we feel like they're trying to change all the time. What's the best way for us to manage our copy without confusing the customer? Or is that just more of a feeling we think we have and the customer hasn't seen it enough to be confused anyway?
No, we're going to get more bored. And by the way, the reason I brought up the long Zoom things is that as long as it's interesting and engaging, we will stay with things for long periods of time. And so what I would say is you will grow far more tired and bored of your message before the marketplace will. Just remember this, that an ad is brand new to someone that's seen it for the first time, even if that ad has been running for 40 years. You know, it's brand new to someone that's seen it for the first time. So entrepreneurs tend to pivot often on messaging. What's the best way to manage this to ensure it doesn't confuse the customer? Kevin, can you explain what you are asking me so I make sure I'm answering the right thing? Because I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're saying. You know, entrepreneurs,
I think they get stuck with the random ideas that they have the kind of, or Kevin, do you want to kind of verbally give us some color, maybe instead of me guessing?
Yeah, I mean, hi Joe. I mean,
Hey.
that's part of Genius Network as well. And I think, you know, you get a lot of great ideas, reading books, going to your sessions, and want to obviously take that greatness and bring it back into the business and potentially pivot. So if I think about, you know, the journey we've been on with the Vivid Vision, some of the messaging, you know, subtleties around the words, is trying to keep that controlled so that, you know, we're not changing the the website every day with different words or different imagery. So I think it's just trying to put some control and structure around it so that we're not confusing the customer of who we are.
Well, here's the thing. The best way to know that is, are they responding? You know, it's like only the hungriest fish will snap at the crappiest bait. Everything that we're putting out there is bait. Are people, are they responding to it? Do they like it? Does it make sense? Are we filling our funnel? Because what happens all the time, and I'm sure everyone here has experienced some version of this, is you have a working wheel. Someone decides you can make a better wheel. You throw on a different wheel. You don't A/B split test it. You don't see how people respond. And all of a sudden you took something that was working and now all of a sudden it's not working, or it's clunky, or it's dysfunctional. And so my whole thing is, you know, you can only change one variable at a time. And if you're willing to go and like completely redo your brand, or, you know, remake your whole website and it was working, then, you know, you're risking that you're just going to, you know, screw it up. So my thing is, who cares what you think? I mean, what matters is what the market thinks, what they're actually responding to. And one of the best things to do is ask people that don't buy from you, people that don't respond. Why didn't you buy? What, you know, we can get testimonials all day long. We can get social proof, and that's very smart to use that from happy clients and then share, you know, the social proof with, you know, your prospects. But really, what about people that don't buy from you? Why didn't they buy? What causes them to be confused? Be in a continual DOS conversation with your clients and prospects. And whatever their DOS is, what are their dangers? What are their opportunities? What are their strengths? Communicate that into all of your messaging, not just your websites, your social media, your follow-up emails, when you're talking to them on the phone, everything. And your vision, all identify your in the Vivid Vision. You don't even have to call it DOS. I mean, you can call it like, you know, here's some things that we've noted that people struggle with. Here's, you know, many of our clients, here's some of the top 5 things that are opportunities of why they come to SS for us for, you know what I'm saying? And so, and I see that right above your head. That's why I said that, like I'm pretending like I know what the hell that means.
Thanks, Joe. And I think you're to your point earlier, which is that I think our clients aren't seeing our messaging enough to get bored of it yet. So when we're pivoting, just test what's working and what's not working and stay in that conversation. What Andrew Sutherland has a question. He said, do you employ any other ELF strategies similar to the voice message? Do you have any other simple to execute ideas? Maybe give us 2 or 3 quick random things that we can all put in place, tactical marketing ideas.
You know, I mean, with I guess without being promotional, my stuff, do you care if I tell people like where they can learn some of this? Not stuff for sale, stuff's free. Okay.
No,
like, sure. I mean, I have over 400 episodes of I Love Marketing on everything under the sun. Like the magic 9-word email is a very effective ELF strategy that I do with Dean Jackson, where you use, it is literally the most effective way to do email. If you just type in magic 9-word email into the search of ilovemarketing.com, you can find a variety of episodes. If you want to know how to do consumer awareness guides, educational guides, you know, my very first sales letter was a consumer guide to carpet cleaning. Read this guide and discover, you know, 7 questions to ask a carpet cleaner before you invite him into your home. 8 mistakes to avoid when choosing a carpet cleaner, crawling critters and crud, a guide to the slime, grime, and livestock that's seeping, creeping, and galloping through your carpet. You know, all this stuff, and it just sounds interesting. But whatever business you're in, the 7 questions to ask a blank, or the 6 questions, or the 5 questions, or 6 costly misconceptions about, you know, brand design. I mean, whatever your thing is, make it formulaic, and then you can use that everywhere. And so Gordy, yeah, just put in, the magic rapport formula. Yeah. Which is a really, really great episode I did many, many years ago on how I connect with people and how I use direct response networking. Right now, one of the things that we've been helping people with are doing challenges where you put out a challenge. And so there's on recent episodes of I Love Marketing, that's a really ELF model that you can test. I'm very big on challenges. I'm very big on contests, because everything measured improves, everything measured and reported improves exponentially. I believe everyone would be well served to have a movie trailer about their business. So if you watch a really compelling movie trailer, do you have anything about yourself? Do you have anything about your company? And if you have a company that has a variety of different products and services, you may want to do whiteboard videos. Those are all very ELF things that can and clone you. You know, if you were to think of musicians, before the internet even existed, the way that I would describe advertising was, I would say, okay, you know, think of how to take your sales message, you know, advertising from, I'm trying to think of the old school marketer in the 1930s that came up with this quote. He said, it wasn't Claude Hopkins who wrote Scientific Advertising, which is an amazing book. Oh boy, I'm trying to think. But anyway, it was, advertising is salesmanship multiplied. So you take sales and you multiply it and you replicate it. Well, that's, you think about canning and cloning yourself everywhere. Like if you have a social media post that has the highest response, use it again. If it's on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn. If it's on LinkedIn, put it on Facebook. Run it as an ad, you know, drive traffic to it on a Facebook ad. So those are, you know, ELF strategies really are leveraging things that are already working and expanding them. And if you can't expand them, if you can't do it without relying on a human to actually deliver it, then you want to work into turning it into a replicatable marketing system. That truly, if I had to rely on my own ability to manage my time and not be ADD, I would be broke. I mean, if I created these marketing systems so I could actually be the functional neurotic that I am.
So quick question. And you mentioned the 9-word email. I put a link to that, Dean Jackson's idea. An example of the 9-word email, and I recommend all of you try this. Come up with an email that you can send out to your list that is only 9 words, and watch how strong the response rate is. And don't make it 30 words. Don't make it, it's 9 fucking words. And you can send it out as a text as well. But mine that I sent out recently was, are you still interested in growing your COO skills? 9 words. That was it. Great response rate. And then I just sent, when they said yes, I sent them the link. It was pretty amazing. So try that. Bijal had a question, Joe, that I think is interesting, and we can wrap after this question. Many marketers use subtle and even blatant lies to market and sell their product or service, and other marketers are still willing to support them. What's your thoughts on authenticity in the context of marketing? Like,
yeah, well, first off, those people will probably burn in hell, as they should. You know, money earned ethically is a byproduct of value creation. You know, whoever's profits from the crime is guilty, is guilty of it. So if someone knowingly is supporting someone that's unethical, and they know it, or, you know, someone that has hurt someone, then that's a whole nother issue. I mean, I could go on a 30-minute tangent on that, so I won't. I just believe that, you know, I believe in karma. And, you know, there's a lot of marketers that have given marketing a really bad name because they, you know, they lie. Hype is valuable. Hype used ethically is massive enthusiasm for what it is you're offering. Hype used unethically is lying, misleading, exaggerating, exploiting. So have you guys ever eaten an entire chunk of ginger? I mean, that it's like it's like wasabi, snorting it. It's pretty bad. So trying to maintain some composure here. So I'm like going, wow, my throat is on fire. Note to self, if you're going to speak at an event, do not consume like a pound of ginger right beforehand. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to ethics, just think about, would you offer this to your best friend? Would you offer, assuming you have a good relationship with your mother, would you sell it to your mother? And if you wouldn't, don't get involved in it. And, you know, so I'm a big believer in integrity. I mean, there's a lot of money millions that I've left on the table because I just won't do certain things. I mean, I care about people. I hate the theft and the exaggerations and the bullshit that exists in the marketing world. I mean, there's a lot of snakes out there. So here's the last thing I'll say also. If you guys want a bunch of L strategies, Life Gives to the Giver, which is one of my books that you cannot buy on Amazon, but you can get it for free at joesfreebook.com. You can download it. And if you want the physical version, you can pay shipping and handling. We'll send it to you for free. And we don't put you into any sort of upsell. You know, it's all free. You're not going to be put on some subscriber thing or, you know, being given some sort of ups. It's truly just a book that I put out there right now to help people in the midst of what's going on. And people love the book, and it's filled with joesfreebook.com.
Thank you, Joe. I put the link to that in the chat. I'm also putting the links, and if anybody can back me up on this, make sure that we're putting the links into our members Slack channel so that you can grab those later as well. Joe Polish from the Genius Network, I Love Marketing. We've shared the I Love Marketing podcast as well. If any of your CEOs are looking for a high-level marketing and business development mastermind that they want to be in, where I'm a member of as well, if you want to drop me an email, I can introduce you to Fast Track It, and you don't have to go through their whole funnel. I'll introduce you to Eunice and Joe, and they can take care of you guys too. Joe, thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Awesome, guys. Good luck. Take care.